This is by far the most dangerous thing that Donald Trump has said this year, and we're going to get into it in today's episode, so stay tuned for my thoughts on that. In this episode, we're going to be talking about Donald Trump's fixation on Greenland, his desire to annex this semi-autonomous nation, despite the fact that this country keeps saying that it is not for sale, despite the fact that NATO allies have asked him to back off and stand down, despite the fact that Americans do not want another war, they do not want another piece of debt added to their already growing $38 trillion national debt, but he will not stop. Now, in my last episode, I noted that I would be having this conversation about Greenland, and many of you took umbrage to the fact that I was critical of the Trump administration. You were upset that I even said that he should not have gone into Venezuela and kidnapped Nicolas Maduro, and you asked me to not deal with this topic. Well, I don't know if you all have been watching my channel from the beginning, but I'm going to say this once again. For those of you who are new to this platform, and for those of you who have been here for a while, I have maintained throughout the past 2 years that I've delved into political content that, and tell me if this sounds familiar, when Donald Trump does something that I agree with, I will say I agree with it. And when Donald Trump does something I disagree with, I will say I disagree with it. You see, many of you logged onto my channel and thumbs up my video and commented and subscribed when I said something positive about Donald Trump. Like when I took the position that his decision to put the National Guard here in Washington, D.C., where I live, was a positive thing that was yielding results. You had no issue with that. But the minute I say I have an issue with his kidnapping Nicolas Maduro, it's a problem. And I'm sure the minute I say that I have an issue with his plans to annex a semi-autonomous country, you all will have a problem. You know what's been most disappointing, and I promise I'm going to get back into the gist of the story, but I have to say this, is how so many content creators who are in the social commentary space are mute about what's going on in Greenland or what's about to go on. They have nothing to say. And if they do have some criticism about what the Trump administration is doing, it's very mild. And then they quickly move on to something else because they know that this is not the territory that their viewers want them to delve in. I said to a fellow content creator a year ago, I believe it was a year ago, that I feel sorry for the content creators who build their platforms with one set of brick. And what do I mean by that? Meaning they've picked a side and that's where they are. Either they're Republican or they're Democrat. There's no nuance there. They don't have the latitude to criticize their own side. They don't have the latitude to criticize their party because they know that their viewers, their audience will turn on them. But back to Donald Trump. Donald Trump has said something so insane, so dangerous that it makes everything else that he's done and said look tame. He is talking about going into a semi-autonomous country and annexing it because he needs it. And I said this in the last video. And I'm going to be honest, one of the reasons why he says he needs it, I do understand. But I do not support going in and taking somebody else's country because they have made it very clear, painfully clear, obviously clear that they are not interested in being a part of the United States.
Well, after meeting at the White House today, officials from Denmark and Greenland are holding strong that Greenland is not for sale. This comes as tensions escalate with the Trump administration insisting the U.S. needs Greenland for national security. ABC's Christiane Cordero has more.
After an hours-long meeting with Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Vice President J.D. Vance at the White House today, a clear message from Denmark and Greenland.
Ideas that would not respect territorial integrity of the Kingdom of Denmark and the right of self-determination of the Greenlandic people are, of course, totally unacceptable.
The Trump administration has said for months that it wants to acquire Greenland for national security. The president falsely claims China and Russia are building a military presence off the coast of Greenland, which Arctic researchers have refuted.
If we don't go in, Russia's going to go in and China's going to go in. And there's not a thing that Denmark can do about it, but we can do everything about it.
Denmark and Greenland point to the NATO alliance to address any security concerns.
The president has made his view clear, and we have a different position. We, the Kingdom of Denmark, continue to believe that also the long-term security of Greenland can be ensured inside the current framework.
At the U.S. Embassy in Copenhagen today, protesters show their support for Greenland's sovereignty and their concern President Trump will follow through on his promise.
I'm afraid that he will destroy the NATO alliance, and he threatens our kingdom and the Greenlanders.
So let's just start here. First of all, Greenland is not unclaimed territory. For those of you who thinks that he can just barge in there and takes whatever he wants, like he's some conqueror, he still has to abide by UN charters. And those UN charters prohibit a country from going in and taking a country by force or coercion. Greenlanders also have the right to self-determination. It's not Denmark's choice. It's their choice whether they want to be a part of the United States or not. And they've said they don't. I mean, if you go across social media, you'll see so many people in Greenland, so many people around the world, Greenlanders who are around the world saying we don't want to be a part of the United States. So I've seen some people say, well, the US does have the right to go in there and buy it if they wanted to sell, perhaps. But that doesn't happen anymore. I know, when you look at history, you look at instances like the Louisiana Purchase or the fact that the United States purchased Alaska from Russia. Yes, those happened, but these are different times. And as I mentioned earlier, these people have the right to self-determination in determining whether they want to even be a part of another country or not. And it's very disheartening. And I don't even think disheartening is a strong enough word for me. Just to see so many folks online who are like, if we want it, we'll take it. Like, what kind of colonialist mindset is that? What kind of bully mind? If I want your lunch money, I'll just take it. Imagine you are a country, a small country of 100,000 people, 200,000 people, and some country just barges in and says they're just going to take you. Imagine you're a county here in the United States and some country just says, you know what, we're just going to take your state. There's some of you who, when you get an eviction notice on your door, you lose your mind. Or when the bank comes and takes your house that you invested some money in, you lose your mind. But you think it's okay for a country who is not revered by the world right now. Be honest with you. And that's all entirely due to our leadership right now. You think it's okay for them to just move into a country and just take it. Now, usually I don't lean into hyperbole. I'm not a hyperbolic person. And I've heard people say, during Donald Trump's run for re-election that, he was dangerous. And, I would listen to the context in which they were talking, and I'd say, yeah, maybe that's dangerous. Nah, not so much this. But I can tell you a statement that he made recently that gave me significant pause. And it was his quote that his power in the U.S. is, quote, limited by my own morality.
President Trump has been briefed on options for military strikes inside Iran as he considers following through on threats to respond to Iran's crackdown on protesters. It comes just days after we got a glimpse into President Trump's worldview in an interview with the New York Times.
Do you see any checks on your power on the world stage? Is there anything that could stop you if you wanted to?
Yeah, there's one thing, my own morality, my own mind. It's the only thing that can stop, and that's law. Very good. I don't need international law. I'm not looking to hurt people.
Eugene Robinson is back with us. Okay, Eugene, my own morality, my own mind. I wrote on my Substack that this guy is he is a moral void. And the idea that we're going to rely on his morality for foreign policy or even domestic policy, for that matter.
Well, if Donald Trump's morality is the only thing that stands between us and the abyss, then heaven help us. Heaven help us all.
My parachute.
However, who's stopping him, right? I mean, right. So theoretically, there's Congress. Theoretically, Congress can say, no, this is not authorized. Stop it. You can't do this. You can't do that. And Congress has the power constitutionally to declare war or not to declare war. They have the power of the purse. So Congress could stop him, but it's refusing to lift a finger. And so if you give the President of the United States essentially unchecked power or the unchecked authority to use the mightiest military the world has ever known, however he wants, then this is what you're going to end up with.
I want you to think about that for a second. Because what I view as moral is very different from what you may view as moral or what Donald Trump views as moral. There are some universal truths, right, when it comes to morality. But what is his truth? President Donald Trump said his power in the United States is limited by his own morality. At first, I thought it said mortality. Now to say, yeah, that's accurate. It is limited by your mortality, your power. Because if you drop dead today, the end of your power. But that it goes without saying that he's also restricted by the Constitution. He doesn't listen to anyone or anything. So, him saying that it goes without saying that it's also restricted by the Constitution means nothing. It means nothing to me. Don't forget, this is the same man, speaking of his morality, who pardoned hundreds of insurrectionists who stormed the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. If memory serves me correctly, there were a few or maybe one person who said they wouldn't accept a pardon. I believe it was an older woman who said we were wrong that day.
So we know one person who was out at the Capitol today was Pam Hemphill. She was once known as what they called MAGA Granny. Hemphill took part in the riot that day, and she turned down the president's pardon.
And if it weren't for the Capitol Police helping me that day, I might have died.
5 years later, Hemphill is back on Capitol Hill, this time to testify how she's taken accountability.
I am truly sorry from the bottom of my heart.
And to reiterate to police and the public that it was a violent attack.
I was there. I saw what you did.
Hemphill has changed her stance about the insurrection and overturning the 2020 election results, blaming President Donald Trump for inciting violence.
That's his morality. He called them hostages, these individuals. You have DC cops who are still traumatized by that event. That's his morality. So now I want to talk about the cost, the $700 billion cost that they are already floating around, saying that that was what it could cost to buy Greenland. Now, mind you, again, Greenland has said it's not for sale. So I don't even know what they're doing these projections for about what it's going to cost. And again, like I said in the beginning, you're going to foot that bill, not the Trump administration, not the Donald Trump family. You're going to foot that bill. I'm going to foot that bill. I'm not footing that bill. So NBC News says the United States could have to pay as much as $700 billion if it were to achieve President Donald Trump's goal of buying Greenland, according to three people familiar with the cost estimate. Now, this estimate was generated by scholars and former U.S. officials as part of planning around Trump's aspiration to acquire the 800,000 square mile island as a strategic buffer in the Arctic against America's top adversaries. It attaches a price tag of more than half the Defense Department's annual budget to Trump's national security priority, which has stoked anxiety across Europe and on Capitol Hill amid his rhetoric about seizing Greenland since he ordered a U.S. military raid to capture Venezuela's president and his wife. Greenland, the semi-autonomous territory of the Kingdom of Denmark, is not for sale. Officials from Denmark and Greenland have rejected Trump's claims that the U.S. will acquire Greenland one way or the other. A senior White House official, however, said Secretary of State Marco Rubio has been directed to come up with a proposal in the coming weeks to purchase Greenland, describing such a plan as a high priority. When I hear, and this is another dangerous statement, being limited by your own morality, and then I hear you saying, well, I'll take it one way or another. What if, I'm just going to use it as an example, a man wanted to have sex with a woman and she said, no, I'm not interested. And he says, I'm willing to pay you for it. And she goes, no, I'm not for sale. I'm not interested in, your offer. And he goes, well, I'm going to take it one way or the other. What would you call that man? What's the word? What kind of mindset would that man have? And I know a lot of you will get upset with my analogy, but I'm going to use the same analogy. Someone said no. That's when the conversation ends. But now he goes a step further and says, I'm going to take it one way or another. You drop your comments down below and let me know what you think about that. What would that make that man? You could use whatever word you want to describe. And I know some of you are going to say, oh, what a horrible analogy to use that. No. Same thing. Because no means no across the board, right? No means no. And I think every little country in the world should be fearful because at least Greenland has the backing of Denmark. You know, they're a part of NATO. So an attack on one is an attack on all. So if you attack Greenland, you could expect a war, right? And like I said, they have the backing of Denmark. So what if you're a little country? Everybody's eyes should be on America and seeing how this plays out right now. Let's get into why Donald Trump wants Greenland so badly. So earlier I said that he has a good reason for wanting Greenland, even though I disagree with it, but I'm still going to at least tell you why he is so focused or hyper-focused on Greenland. This is about power. This is about security. This is about rare minerals. And this is about the future Arctic order. Greenland really does lie in a very strategic military location. Let's take a look. For those of you who are listening to the audio podcast, please take a look at the screen. Go on my YouTube channel and watch the video. But if you're looking, I'm looking at the map here. It sits between North America and Europe. So that makes it very critical for early missile warning systems. It makes it very critical for tracking Russian submarines and aircraft. It's critical for control of the Arctic air and sea routes. So when Donald Trump framed Greenland as a national security necessity, he wasn't exaggerating about that. So that means new shipping routes, shorter Europe to Asia paths, again, access to rare earth minerals like gas and oil. China calls itself a near Arctic state and has tried to invest very heavily in Greenland's infrastructure. And that's what's alarming the United States and NATO, which I do understand. Also, Greenland is becoming a 21st century choke point, the way that the Panama Canal was. So all of these things are giving the United States significant pause, and I do understand that. But that doesn't give the U.S. 100% right to just say they're going to invade someone's country, and that's what I view it as, an invasion. If someone says they're not for sale, how are you still moving forward to just take it just because, yes, you can secure your country, but maybe it means you have to boost your own defenses in some way, shape, or form. But not to just take a country, because where does it stop? They're talking about annexing Canada. And even though it's kind of died down a little bit because Canada's really been pushing back, maybe they feel they can bully a smaller nation like Greenland. But what's to stop them from going into the Caribbean and doing the same thing? Again, I mentioned in a previous video that China has been injecting hundreds of millions of dollars, probably billions, into the Caribbean, probably billions, into the Caribbean's infrastructure and helping them with festivals and road projects and hotels. That, I'm sure, gives the United States significant pause as well. So at what point do they say, oh, we need this country in the Caribbean? We need Barbados. We need the Bahamas. I shouldn't even say, I don't even give this man any ideas. And here's the third point. Greenland has been really angling to have complete autonomy, not semi-autonomy, complete autonomy from Denmark. They want full independence, and they don't want a new overseer. So if I'm trying to break free from Denmark, what makes you think that I want to be aligned with any other country, especially the United States right now? And I'll tell you why all of this, besides the fact that it's just shocking, really alarmed a lot of countries around the world, a lot of NATO allies. Because number one, the borders might be questioned again. Security guarantees might be transactional. Your sovereignty might be dependent on your usefulness to the United States. Seeing this image on the screen that was posted by Katie Miller, who is the wife of Stephen Miller, one of Trump's closest advisors. Y'all need to read up on that man and understand who is constantly whispering in Donald Trump's ears. It would give you significant pause. But his wife posted this image that really pissed off a lot of people, with the map of Greenland draped in the United States flag and one word in all caps, soon. And I'm sure during her conversations with Mr. Miller, and he is Trump's trusted advisor, that he's telling her what the deal is. So here's the bottom line. Legally, Donald Trump cannot just go in and annex Greenland. And to do so would be violating international law. Now, I know a lot of you all don't give two you-know-whats about international law or anything, because you just like your guy exhibiting his power and going in and doing whatever the hell he wants. But there are rules to this. Drop your comments down below. Let me know what you think. This was a pretty lengthy video. I was just disgusted by this, as I usually am when things like this happen. I want no wars. I think that's what Donald Trump promised. You know, we are all trying to keep our heads above water financially. Nobody needs anything sent into a tailspin at this point. I want more allies than enemies for this country. And Americans as a whole, I feel like the majority of them do not want this. They do not. And for the folks who will come in and say, oh, you don't understand anything because you're not a geopolitical expert, neither are you. Some of you don't know a damn thing about geopolitics. All you know is you support this side, and anybody who opposes this side is a problem. And I don't need to be a geopolitical expert to know that going in and annexing someone's home is wrong. And for those of you who go online and you're afraid to say that, don't be afraid. You're going to be on a platform like this. Show some balls. Have some guts. If the comments bother you, don't read them. You don't have to read the comments. People get nasty with you, block them. But don't stay silent. And let me tell you something before I go. A lot of folks are so weak-minded. Such cowards that they wait for everybody to jump on board before they say, oh, you're in the wrong. They need to move like a mob. I always gravitate towards the lone voice in the wilderness saying, and I'm not saying it's me, I'm just saying the individual who sounds the alarm and then they got to take the barrage of attacks from people. I respect those people. And I don't care if this video does 4 views or 4 million. I still speak my piece. And if you came to my channel because you liked my commentary and you thought that I was fair to your boy at one point, either you think I'm fair or you think I'm not. But you don't get to say I'm fair when I'm saying something that you agree with. And the minute I say something you disagree with, I'm unfair and you're out of here. I don't run a dictatorship around here. You're free to come and go as you please. I respect the people because there's a growing group of Republicans who are not in favor of these things that Donald Trump is doing, and they're speaking out. I tip my hat to you all. I like an independent thinker. I like people who can say, I support this party. I voted for this, but I didn't vote for that. You don't have to be 100% in alignment with anybody. I love my family. You think I'm always in alignment with them? You think they're always in alignment with me? Y'all tripping if y'all think someone has to always be in line with what Donald Trump says or does. I actually respect you more when you can say, when you can show that you're thinking, when you can say, no, I don't agree with this. Or if you do agree, say it from the positions that you do rather than just attacking someone. It's stupid. It's dumb is what it is. What are you attacking the host for? What are you attacking the people in the comment section for? It's supposed to be dialogue. And some of you aren't. It's like y'all are immature. You don't know how to express yourselves. And not all of you, because there are some of you who are very polite and saying, hey, I disagree with you. I think you got it wrong, but still a follower, still a supporter. It's the same thing over and over. And again, to my fellow YouTubers who were so afraid of the mob that you stay quiet, whispering in secret, like, I don't agree with what he's saying, but I'm not trying to upset my audience. And that's weak. I don't hold a separate private position from my public position. What I say on my platform is what I say privately. You better believe it. And if it means I got to take the fiery darts, so be it. Because I ain't got to read it. I say I speak my piece and that's it. And that's all. Drop your comments down below. I'll give you this one advisory. You're free to explain why you support it. But the minute y'all come calling a Rogan out of her name, I'll block you to oblivion. Don't play with me. Don't play with me. Don't play with me. Don't play with me. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye. Toodles.